Hi, welcome to this video. I'm going to share with you what I believe are 4 key monopoly diagrams that are so useful when writing long essays, like 15 markers, 25 markers. Actually, this works for many of the exam boards, if not all of the exam boards. I think if you don't cover monopolies in as much detail yet, or you don't, then maybe not. But yeah, if you want to be able to write in detail about cause and effect, so about monopolies facing taxes and what's the impact on the market, or monopolies doing advertisement schemes, what's the impact on the market, and so on, it's really useful to have these 3 diagrams to hand. So here I start with a monopoly diagram that I've drawn here in white. First scenario is higher variable costs. Okay, so when it comes to variable costs, the key thing to remember is that they increase both your marginal and your average costs. And in general, you want to show this as a parallel shift. So it's going to look like my marginal cost is shifting left, but it's more accurate, in my opinion, to view it as like your costs are increasing at each quantity. And so I'm trying my best to draw like a parallel shift. I actually didn't do too much of a good job because your marginal cost should always cut the minimum point of your average cost. And you can see here, I think that they don't line up. So I'm just going to try that again and see if I can kind of get the minimum. Still don't have it. If this happens, you just have to keep trying until you get it, because I think that's important. Okay. So I have MC2, I have AC2, that's higher variable costs. What's going to be the outcome? So initially we would be profit maximizing, setting MC equal to MR. This is Q1, we would be charging a price, the highest price that consumers are willing and able to pay. And we would be facing an average cost of AC1, which gives us this white area here in supernormal profits. But as our variable costs increased, we now will be producing less. So we are now going to be producing where MC2 meets MR, which is here at Q2. Yes, the diagrams get busy. When you do this in an exam, I would personally, how I do this in an exam is I will draw this really large to make sure it's still clear. I do like drawing diagrams like this that are complicated. I think the benefit is worth it because you have a lot to talk about. So for example, you can actually see that the profits are clearly decreasing from S&P 1 to S&P 2. You can see prices are going up. You can see that the average costs are going up. So that's higher variable costs. Right, let's move on to the next scenario. I'm back on my iPad. So I think the videos are getting better, but I don't have like a quick undo button with that yet. So sorry. Just bear with me whilst I get better at this. Okay, next one. When you have higher fixed costs, what you need to remember is you actually want to not shift your MC. You want to keep that the same because MC, what it does, it tracks changes in your total costs with quantity. So this tracks the changes in your fixed costs and the changes in your variable costs with quantity. But your fixed costs don't vary with quantity. So this is like 0. In other words, it just tracks changes in your variable costs. So long story short, you don't want to be shifting your MC curve when you are looking at fixed costs. Instead, you need to shift your average cost. But how do we do it? So your average cost curve is made up of your average fixed cost and your average variable cost. And your higher fixed cost is going to shift up your AFC. But when you have a shift in your AFC, so let's say total costs increase from TC1 to TC2. This one looks pretty easy, right? But how does it average? So on an average fixed cost curve, you have average fixed cost 1, which trends towards the quantity axis but doesn't touch. Now this is actually going to cause like a non-parallel thing. So for example, at quantity 1, this is equal to my total fixed costs. But this has now increased. Like up to here. So this is total fixed cost 2. So the gap between here and here is the change in your total costs. And these curves they get more similar. So basically there's a big gap between them and then there's less of a gap. My diagram is pretty rubbish, but the gap should decrease, decrease, and decrease. And so we want to represent that with average cost. That's also going to happen with average cost. So we want to be shifting up by the change in the total cost, a large amount over here, and it's a smaller amount, smaller amount, smaller amount, smaller amount. I don't want to grow it here, that's wrong. Let me try that again. These are hard to draw. It's worth practicing these over and over again. Sorry, and on iPads, this is really bad. Anyway, once you get that, and it looks like I might not get that, you should really be careful to make sure that your new AC curve cuts your existing MC at the bottom. I think I nearly got that, so I'm just going to go with it. Yeah, so this is essentially what you want to be drawing when you're increasing fixed costs. What's the implications of this? So let's draw the profit max. Now you set MC equal to MR, and notice that this is the same as it was before. So there's no change in quantity, and because of that, and there's no change in your demand curve, there's no change in your price. Your average cost has changed, so previously it was here, so this is like AC1, and now your AC is all the way over there. So your supernormal profits are now this smaller red area there, whereas before they were this larger area in blue. So that's the impact of higher fixed costs. Right, next one is higher demand. So when it comes to higher demand, what you need to remember is that it's going to shift two things at the same time. It's going to shift your demand curve, and it's going to shift your MR curve. Sorry, rubbing all these guys out. Right, so it's going to shift two things. It's going to shift your AR, and it's going to shift your MR. So when we have higher demand, we shift the curve to the right. We have D2 equal to AR2. Now you know that your MR curve always cuts halfway, so it's always twice as steep. In other words, you need a new MR curve. And then just follow the process to get the right quantity. So this is Q1, where MC equals MR is the highest price that you're willing to pay. This is the costs for that particular quantity. And then now that we have a new MR, this is now Q2, go up to get the highest price that people are willing to pay. And then this is now the average cost too. So you can see here that supernormal profits should increase quite significantly to now be this green area, whereas before they were this white area when there's a higher demand situation. Like for example, the monopoly is spending money on advertising, or they launch a new product that opens up a new market niche for them. So that's the situation for higher demand. Okay, the last one is possibly the riskiest one. I still find it useful. I still use it, but I use it with care because it's very difficult, one, to draw, but also it's very easy to confuse the reader and make it seem like something else. So one of the things with economies of scale is it's very important to make it clear that you are doing economies of scale. So remember that the long run AC curve is made up of a lot of short run ACs and so on. So this is like short run AC1, short run AC2, and short run MC1, short run MC2. You get economies of scale when you increase the scale of your production, and in that process your costs lower. So you move from one short run to another short run, and that's all along the same long run AC. So I can draw economies of scale by kind of drawing this. I like to draw the monopoly diagram with economies of scale like that, because you can talk about what happens to the change in price, the change in profit, in a lot more robust way than if you were just drawing a long run AC by itself. But it's not easy to do. So what I like to do is I like to draw this first one quite high up here in the corner, and I'm going to be very clear to label this is a short run MC, This is a short run AC, and I'm going to have like the initial quantity at profit max, and the initial price at profit max, and the initial supernormal profit. Okay, then they're going to reinvest this into scaling. I make it clear that they are going to scale. So that means that they're going to be increasing the production. Now, when I draw economies of scale, remember I need to draw two things. One, higher scale, and two, lower costs. So I need to make sure that my new cost curves are kind of like around here. And just from experience, you kind of need to draw these fairly wide and the MC curve like fairly long to be able to draw this. Short run MC2, short run AC2. Whoops, that should be 1. And you get Q2 going up to P2 and AC2. So the monopoly has reinvested, they've scaled their production, they've increased their variable resources, and as a result, they were able to gain economies of scale. And I would actually label that. I would label here they're gaining scale. And I would label here that they're gaining economies of scale, just to make that super clear. And to make it even clearer, because this can get misinterpreted, it has to be on just the tangent. This is the long run AC. So I'm making it clear that the monopoly initially made all the supernormal profits. They reinvested that into scaling their variable factors. They are now on a new short run MC, short run ATC. And because of that, they have gained larger profits. So this is kind of like my argument that monopolies are beneficial in theory because they will lower prices and they should increase production over time, which leads to higher consumer surplus over time. And they actually want to do this. They want to do this because there's more profit in it for them. They make more supernormal profit. However, obviously, as we know, if they go too far, your long run AC could then go the other way around, and you know, that benefit won't be the case. Anyway, hopefully you liked this short video explaining you through 4 key monopoly diagrams that are really helpful when writing long essays to help you have things to talk about. Prices changing, costs changing, profits changing, all of that kind of thing. Thanks very much for watching.